Obviously, things can change, for teams throughout the course of a season, but both you and a couple of your players have alluded to some of your biggest success kind of occurred in that Texas game, that win at home. What do you hope to potentially replicate or duplicate to achieve the same thing in Austin this weekend?
Well, I felt like we set the tone defensively. We were the team that was aggressive. We were able to turn them over, especially early. We dictated things with our defense. And then as we built our confidence that way, I thought we did a great job. Our ball toughness was terrific. We had, I think, 22 assists, if memory serves me correctly. Tyrese was outstanding in commanding the game. So for us, defensively, it's dictating, it's physicality, it's pressuring the ball. Offensively, it's like commanding the possessions and the toughness we had. I thought our guys were especially resilient that game. We felt like, we had really needed to have that win, and our guys did a great job of being intentional with that focus and toughness throughout. And and then again, we shot the ball well, from three as well. So all those things are factors.
Thank you.
Our next question will be from Randy Peterson. Randy, unmute yourself and go ahead.
Good morning, TJ. The bottom half, or the second half of the conference standings, there's four of you at 3 and 6, and West Virginia's at 2 and 6, and we all know that they're better than that, or they will be better than that. What do you make of the conference, maybe 4 through 10?
Well, I think even at this point, there's certainly teams that you play, in this league that you realize are as good as anybody in the country. But what you also realize is that everybody's good. And then, I don't know how to even quantify who 4 through 10 is, because if you look at conference schedule, I think at this point, looking at it, like us and West Virginia have probably had as challenging as a first half of the league schedule as anybody, based on what the metrics say, even though I'm well aware of how hard every single game is. So to look at the puzzle halfway through, you're comparing, not congruent things, right? Because some have played some teams. There's 2 teams we haven't played once, and there's 2 teams we've already played twice. So I just say, the league is really strong top to bottom. And that's evident because when you watch every single night, the games come down to the final couple minutes. It's a team that you would, somebody thinks should win versus another team. And then the game goes differently. You're seeing teams win on the road. So I'd say, specifically answering your question, 4 to 10, everybody's really good. Everybody's physical, everybody's defensive minded. And it's really going to be about the teams that can stay together, continue to play for each other, and as you go along, in conference play, because it's every night is a challenge.
Thank you, TJ.
Thank you.
All right, next up will be Travis Hines. Travis, unmute yourself and go ahead.
Hey, TJ, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. What would you say has been your guys' biggest stressor defensively through conference play so far?
What we're emphasizing the most, or what's hurt us the most?
What's hurt you, or what's been the biggest challenge for you guys defensively?
Yeah, I think people are trying to spread us out more. We do a really good job of guarding and keeping the ball in the outer third of the court. I don't know what the numbers say today, but I know our defense is still, whether it's top 6 or top 7 in the entire country, based on, us really being able to turn people over. So what happens is, because we turn people over at such a high rate, they try to space us out more, to put us in positions where, maybe it's harder to do that. Now, Kansas did a terrific job of spacing us, and at the same time, we still turned them over 22 times. So it's kind of like we have a defense that's very disruptive, And so in that we're taking some more risks probably and trying to generate turnovers. So what we're seeing more and more is people popping their 5-man to the middle of the court, right? Like they did with McCormick. And certainly when he's making that 15 to 17 foot shot on the top of the floor, that puts some stress on us. So I think more than anything, it's people playing their 5-man away from the basket. And, you know, we saw it, Oklahoma did it with Groves. We saw McCormick doing it the other night and playing him at the top of the floor and having him facilitate offense. Now, people have tried to do that as well, and we've generated a lot of turnovers because you're taking the ball out of somebody's primary playmaker's hands and forcing like a big or a center to make those decisions. But I think at times it's played to our advantage, and at times it's provided, you know, it's created challenges, but that's what we're seeing more and more of, people trying to spread us out and space us on the perimeter.
You know, obviously you guys have been excellent, elite at creating turnovers, so that's nothing you're going to change. But does I guess either taking the risk you alluded to or just pressuring the ball, does that make you give up things elsewhere? Or do you feel like they're kind of, when it comes to that spacing or getting spread out, they're independent variables of each other?
Yeah, I'd say more towards independent variable, just because like for our group, based on our strengths, we need to dictate defensively. We're not a team that can sit back and play a drop coverage or positional. We don't have, you know, like some teams have a 7'1" guy that can just protect the rim and stay at the rim. We don't necessarily have that type of guy. And so because of the length, you know, we're not as long and tall or as big from a mass standpoint as a lot of the team's front lines are. So we need to dictate by flying around, giving extra effort, and getting deflections and all that stuff. Like, you know, do we occasionally give up a back cut because of it?
Sure.
Probably. But at the same time, we probably turn somebody over once or twice trying to make the same play that maybe they converted once. So you're going to look at, you know, giving at times, you know, giving that up. But I'd say overall, like we have to do things one way for us to be successful. And if we don't do them that way, there's not a good alternative. So even though there's such a thing as like, you know, secondary coverages and those things, we've seen our group, when we execute what we do well, we feel good about the outcomes.
Were you confident that the level at which you turned teams over in the non-conference would translate to league play, or has this outperformed your expectations, you know, from a month ago when you guys started?
Yeah, I'd say it's a credit to our guys because we've been able to still dictate defensively, even when shots aren't falling, our offense isn't going as well, which is a credit to their character. A lot of times when guys aren't scoring at the level they'd like, maybe the defense slips, and that hasn't been the case. I also think teams in our league a lot of times want to play taller, bigger guards that maybe aren't as natural as a point guard, but it helps their defense. Obviously, you know, Texas Tech stands out that way with the guys they play at the point who are 6'5", 6'6", and they're doing it as much to help their defense, to have that size and length and physicality. So I think it is a credit to our guys, how hard they're playing and how hard they're working. And I also think that some of the teams in our league, you know, choose to play not as much of a conventional point guard because they want to have more size and length and physicality on the floor for their defense.
Thanks, TJ.
Thank you.
James Powell, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask away.
Sorry. Hi, TJ. I was just curious as to if there was a specific reason why Tristan and Aruna played 8 minutes against Kansas. Was that just how the game was playing out, or was there a specific reason behind that?
Well, with Tristan, you know, in particular, I think we all can see like when his production, when he's had that instant impact on our team, right? And so he's had a lot of those games where he starts off with a big dunk or a big rebound or those type of plays. And when he does that, his minutes are increased. And so overall, like I think for all of our guys, playing time is going to be tied to, how are you helping our defense first and foremost? Are you guarding the dribble? Are you, are you doing a good job being physical, guarding the dribble, keeping the ball in front of you? Are you doing a great job on the glass, commanding rebounds and protecting the rim, specifically if you're Tristan, because we've seen him do a great job of that. So if his minutes aren't as high, I'd say the reason would be that we feel, he's getting beat off the dribble. We're not getting the rebounds. We're not getting the rim protection. And when his minutes are higher, those things are standing out for our team. And we've seen where they can be really good. So just like everybody, especially on our front line, the minutes are tied to doing the physical things. And that for him specifically involves guard the dribble, get the rebounds and protect the rim.
Randy, unmute yourself and go ahead.
TJ, what's the challenge for you guys playing road games, 2 road games in 4 days, whatever it is, and one of them obviously includes West Virginia? What's the challenges for you guys?
Yeah, the challenge is, that those teams are both really good at home and they don't lose many home games, and they're both physical. The style of play that we employ is one that's physical and aggressive, and so are they. And now they're on their home court. And, that's really the challenge, is that they're both, again, with West Virginia, they're better than what they've been in the league right now. And I think they've got an urgency and a desperation to how they're playing. They just went to Baylor, and, Baylor kind of snuck out with the win late. And then I'd say with Texas, obviously we beat them here. I don't look at all the numbers, but I would guess we've scored about as many points against them as anybody has. So I'm sure there's going to be a stubbornness to them to not want us to get our offense going again. And so both games are going to be really tough. I think it's tough anytime this league, when you go back-to-back games on the road, for sure. But especially when, both teams are coming in with a urgency after Texas just losing, the game on the road that they did. And West Virginia, by the time we get to that game next week, with the challenges they've had. So they really want to win, and we really need to win as well.
Do you stay out or do you come back, Saturday night?
Yeah, we come back Saturday after our game to get home with, especially with the early game at 1. We'll come back right after the game.
Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and we'll finish with Rob Gray. Rob, unmute yourself and go ahead.
Morning, TJ. Wanted to ask, is there a guy on your team that is kind of the, I want to say DeAndre Kane or the George Niang, the vocal leader, or did you assemble a team of what you thought were kind of like collective leaders? How is that shaped up for you?
Yeah, I'd say as a group, it's more the collective leaders. In recruiting, you try to identify those guys that have that engaging personality. And, I think a lot of times as coaches, we all talk about leadership and how you want vocal leaders, but every team doesn't necessarily have a guy who does that, based on my experience. And for some teams, it's more challenging than others. So I feel we're fortunate to have a lot of voices on our coaching staff that do a great job at leadership. I think as far as our team is concerned, that's something that, is by committee and different guys at different times, depending on what we need. When you talk about a guy like George Niang, who's obviously really special to me, part of that leadership is based on his investment in this program over time. And that got better and picked up more momentum as the years and the wins and the investment in Iowa State got greater. So, you hope in recruiting, you identify those guys. You also want to develop a guy like Tyrese Hunter, who's an impactful player as a freshman, so that he develops that same program pride that a guy like George did. And as he's developing it, that you see more and more of those examples as he moves forward in his career as well.
Gotcha. Thanks, TJ.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for your time today, Coach.
Thank you.